Hey, welcome to this video. This video, I want to republish or revive an older video that I did about 8 months ago, showing how to create a step-by-step monster in zBrush. If you enjoy this and you end up creating something really cool, please share on Discord. And also, we are currently having our 3D monster challenge, which would be really cool if you submitted your character and entered the challenge as well. All right, so with that said, let's jump in, and I really hope to see your work. Hey, welcome to today's video. In this video, let's create a monster. It's going to be a monster bust. And in this part one, I'm just going to sculpt it. So we'll just sculpt the character. And in part two, we will poly paint it, add some fiber mesh. You can see little hairs on his neck, and bring it into Blender for a quick rendering. So this incredible monster was created by somebody named Adam Munoa, and let me show you his account. All right, so the artist name is Adam Munoa, and you can look him up. Here's his handle, Munoa13. So on his account, one of the characters that I saw was this guy right here, and I immediately fell in love with him. I'm also eyeing this guy as well. Adam did give me permission to use any one of these creatures, which is really cool, and I'm definitely going to do that. So the first one in this video I want to get my hands on, or attempt to try to even create something like this, is this guy right here. All right. So again, give Adam a follow, and let's jump into zBrush and see if we can attempt to recreate this guy in 3D. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to park my reference right here, and I'm using Pure Ref for that. And to begin, there's a couple different ways we can do that. What I would like to do is go to the light box, and I'm just going to activate my Dynamesh Sphere 128 that I usually like to start with. So we only have one angle of this character, right? This view right here, which is should be more than enough. And let's take a closer look at the design of the character. So you have this really amazing transparent bottom of his head, and you can see there's some brains in there, which is going to be really fun, right? We should be able to render all of that in either Maya or Blender. I think Blender is probably the fastest way to render him out, and maybe slap some poly paint on this guy. But anyway, so you could see that there's going to be this second eye coming from the middle, and I think even though it's a side view, it does look like he just has one eye, right? And two tongues, and completely 100% outrageous and insane. I love it. I think it's great. So how would you begin to follow something like this, something so unusual? I think what I'm going to do is, instead of just using the Pure Ref to look at it, I would also like to load this image up and use it as a reference image to overlay, right? So we can get the shape as close as we can, and kind of block it out, right? So let's do that. Let's move on to the blocking. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert this image, and you are welcome to take a screenshot of this on your end and follow me along, and let's go ahead and do the same thing, right? Import this image as a JPEG into zBrush. So to do that, once you have your image, what you can do is go to textures, and let's go ahead and do, let's click on this texture thing here, and let's do import. Once you find the image, you should see it appear right here. So I'm gonna select it, and you can see that automatically was placed in this big box right here. And the next thing that I need to do is I need to add that image to Spotlight. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this button right here, and that's going to place this image into something called Spotlight. And now we can use this to overlay, right, our image over our Dynamesh to kind of get the shape proper, right? So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to click on this button right here to scale this, and maybe we can just get it maybe a little bit larger, right? The other one that we want to do is we definitely want to change the opacity, right? Because I just want the contour, the shape of the character. Because I already have it as a reference, I don't really need it to be so vivid and bright. So how do we turn down the opacity of this? To do that, we can use one of these buttons here. If you just click on these, it's going to tell you what they are, right? You can click on each one. And the one that I'm looking for is this one called opacity. Now if I click on this and start dragging, you can see that now it's going to get 100% bright. And if I go this way, it's going to give me something really, really perfect, right? Something along these lines is all I need. Just so I can see my Dynamesh and I can see the outline of Adam's image, right? Very cool. Once you're done and you are happy both with the scale and opacity, just press Z on your keyboard and that will automatically exit the Spotlight edit mode and just kind of have this image floating in space. Now, the other thing that I want to make sure as I build my base mesh or block out, I definitely do not want to be in the perspective mode, right? So let's jump out of that, hold down the Shift key and snap perfectly flat on this view right here. And obviously this character is sideways, so I'm gonna mimic that. I'm gonna go to the side and hold down the Shift key and snap sideways. So now I know the sphere is in orthographical view. I know the camera is positioned sideways, and now I can use the sphere to attempt to align it with the reference image, right? If you press Alt and left click, you can change the scale of this, which is great. And let's just start using kind of spheres to kind of block this out, right? What I'm gonna do is, I'll probably start from the top here. And let me just grab my move and literally just position it where I want the beginning of the character to be, right? And now I can just start scaling this and essentially just blocking this out. And this is great because it's going to give us perfect proportions of the characters. We don't have to guess any of that. We can just use these spheres. If we open up subtools, we can of course use the different layers as well, right? Maybe the mouth could be a different layer, the neck a third layer, and so on. But for this right here, let me just hold on the Control key, drag another one. Let's just make this a little bit smaller and place it where the outline is of the head, and I'll just do something like this. And you know what, I can even get it close enough where it's so close that it's following the contour pretty much perfectly. Let's do Control, drag another one, and again just block out the form that we need. And let's just do something like this, make this a little bit larger, and very cool. Press Control, let's do one more. I'm gonna ignore the eye for a minute because I just want to get the actual head shape first, right? So let me just do something like this, where this eye is, and I can even put one here as well. Just do something like that. So it's almost like using Z spheres, but you're using, you're just using normal spheres to block it out, right? What about this guy right here? Definitely let's grab reference for that as well. I'm gonna press Control, go all the way to the top here, and let's just block out this eye here as well, so we know where that is. We know the size, we know the distance. Press Control and make this a little bit smaller. And just keep following along, right? I'm gonna keep going. And don't worry about the fact that some of these spheres have this, obviously this intersections between them, right? We can always smooth that out really fast and take care of that. So we just really want kind of the flow and the size and proportions. That's all we really need, right? To stay as close as possible. Right here, we can even, if we wanted to make it, a little bit longer, why not? And the only thing I want to make sure is that I stay true to the flow of the shape, which is going to be something along these lines. And I think that's pretty good. All right, let's press Control and click to take a look and see what we have so far. We can get out of the gizmo mode and kind of review everything and make sure everything feels good, right? At this point, we can even use the Move brush to maybe adjust some of this just a little bit. Now, if you do something like that, make sure your active symmetry is on and make sure that, you are in the correct axes. You can also use the infinity brush, which I actually strongly suggest. This will make sure that it will evenly grab both sides, right? It's gonna grab the left and the right. Infinity just means it's projecting your point of movement all the way across, right? So if I do something like this, I can very carefully adjust this, and I know it's gonna be adjusting it on both sides, right? The left and the right once again. All right, right here I could see that I could just do a little bit better, get a little bit closer, and do something like this. We can even adjust this right here. Right, we know that this is going to be the place of the eye. Very nice. All right, now to keep going, I'm going to simply insert another sphere. Let me just drop one in. All right, if we wanted this to be consistent with these, just make sure you turn Dynamesh mode on if you want to, and that's going to be exactly the same as that, right? And just like with the other one, let's just continue moving this around. All right, so I'm going to place this here, and let's just do something like that. I'm going to ignore the neck for a minute. I think that's going to be another layer, right? I just kind of want the bottom of his face to be its own layer, right? And all of these, the gums, the teeth, we can add all of that. That's no problem. I wouldn't mind, honestly, to go to, let me grab my infinity brush and just start moving this around, right? Let's just maybe make this a little more custom as far as the flow goes. So all we need is just create some volume for this, right? So I think that's great. And if I wanted to, I can just keep moving this down and essentially just start building something that looks a lot like what I'm seeing here, right? Just gonna custom drag it. If I needed to redynamesh that, control drag, redynamesh, and just continue moving it along, right? Remember, if we redynamesh, it's kind of an infinite clay mode. It can never run out of resolution. We just keep going, which is really, really cool. And I'm just gonna keep going, control drag to redynamesh. And essentially, I just want, I'm not gonna worry about the teeth. I just want the base shape of the jaw, like the lower jaw, right? And I can do something like this, and that's pretty close, in my opinion, to what I need. All right. Now, I know we have no idea how it's going to look from the front, so we'll take care of that in a minute. Right now, we're just worrying about the side only, right? And that's all we want at this point. Let's go ahead and do the neck. Same thing. I'm just going to insert a sphere. I'm going to take that sphere, turn it into Dynamesh, grab my move, put it right here. And if I wanted to, I could even do something like this and just start turning it, right? Because that's going to be essentially his neck. So somewhere right here is perfect. Do control and drag to do another one. And maybe this one is a little bit smaller, right? Let's grab our move infinite, and I'm going to just start pulling this, right? Start pulling it, control drag to redynamesh, and just fill all this up, right? So this is going to be kind of the backside of him. So, and just like the reference, we'll just create somewhat like a bust of this guy, right? So we'll just go down to kind of the lower neck here. All right, so that looks pretty interesting from the side. Looks pretty close in my opinion, right? If I wanted to hide this for 1 second, if you wanted to hide the reference, you can just do Shift Z, and you can see what you have created. So you should see something very similar to what I'm seeing here. And now if we look on the front of the character, we can see that obviously some of these don't match, right? I'm liking, and this is where some of the artistic decisions need to come into play as far as deciding, you know, how does he look from the front, right? One thing that we know for sure is that this is indeed round. So this is very close to what I think the final would be, right? And same thing with that. And even all of this, right? So, but this piece right here is not really matching, right? So let's alt click on that to select it. Let's grab our move brush, press X, make sure we are doing this on both sides. Make our brush kind of large. And again, just fill out the volume, right? You want to kind of drag this out and create something that you can imagine, right? His mouth would be from the front. So it's obviously going to be something like this, right? We like all of this being skinny, right? All of this is thin. So this neck piece, I'm going to press Alt and select the neck. And let's just pull this in, make sure we're in active symmetry. And just like clay, right? We're just going to start matching all of this like we're sculpting. I'm going to do Control and drag to redynamesh, hold on the Shift key to smooth this out. And very quickly I got to something that looks a lot like what I would need for a blockout, right? So all of this is great. Let's review and take a look. I think, again, this is nice and skinny. You got your round eye right here. All this is round. The neck is round and thick, which is great, right? We don't really have the need for these sharp corners here. So I'm gonna press Alt and select that, do Control and drag. And let me just smooth these out for now. And do something like that, right? We don't really need them. If you're having a hard time getting rid of these, I love using Trim Dynamic. Just do sub and turn your intensity way down so it's very weak, and just kind of start very slowly just pressing this in and essentially just kind of molding it to what you need it to be, right? All right, and then Control drag to Redynamesh, hold on the Shift key, smooth this out, and there you go. We have something that is pretty perfect. So this is going to be the beginning of our sculpt. We can also go to perspective view and get a really good feel of how this is going to look, you know, moving forward, right? Hopefully you followed along and you did something very similar. So moving forward, I think I'm going to retain I'm going to keep these at 3 layers, just so I have a little more control over the neck, the lower jaw here, and the top of the head. So at any point we can always mold them together, but initially I'm just going to keep them separate. And let's just start kind of talking about the actual detail on this, right? So starting from the top, I'm going to definitely fuse all of this together in Dynamesh mode. So I'm going to Control and drag to do something like this. And now since we fuse them together, you can see that they are no longer separate. If I hold on the Shift key, I can smooth all of this very quickly. And now we have something like this, right? Which is great. Let's go ahead and do the same thing in the back. All right, so we don't really have the need for these, you know, lines right there, right? Because all of this is super smooth, and you do have some lines in the back, but we can actually just draw those in. So the first thing I suggest we do is get rid of any surface that's super wobbly, right? You can see that this right here is very clean. So what would be the trick to really quickly get rid of all of this uneven surface? So obviously the answer is zRemesher. I'm gonna go to Geometry, go to, let's go to zRemesher, where is it? Right here. And let's turn this to like 1. I'm gonna leave Adapt off. And I do like my symmetry on X, that's great. Let's go ahead and do zRemesh. I like all of this. I'm going to do a little bit of a polish, like a 5. And very quickly you can see that I just got rid of all these uneven things, and this is super close to what I'm seeing in the reference, right? The shape is pretty great. So I wouldn't mind going back into Dynamesh mode, but now I'm sort of in this low poly res, kind of a game. This would be a great, you know, if you dial this down even more, this would be perfect for like a game model, but we're not doing that. We're going to do a high res sculpt first, right? Not first, I mean, that's all I'm going to do. But so to get out of this mode, what I'm going to do is press Control D to subdivide this a bunch of times until this is nice and smooth. That's what I want, right? I want this to be high density with a lot of polys. I'm 120,000, and this is perfect. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete lower. I don't need lower, and I'm going to go back into Dynamesh mode, because I also don't really care about topology at all. I'm just full on sculpting mode. I just want to have fun. So I'm going to dial this up to like, let's do 256. Press Enter and do Dynamesh. And that should give us enough geometry to play around. And the first thing we can do right away is let's start sculpting some of the stuff that we're seeing. And I wouldn't mind starting from the top, right? Let's just pick something super simple. So to get the top, just forget about the entire character. Let's just only worry about this at first, right? Now we know the proportions are perfect, and the distancing and the spacing is perfect. So now we could just look at the reference and see if we can recreate something similar. All right, so how do you get this? How do you get this effect where you have this eyeball with a awesome eyelid, right? seems to be the eyelid almost looks like it's a separate section. And then you have this, you know, this green part, which is kind of holding these two pieces together, right? So the first thing I would like to do is I would like to push this aspect in here. So to do that, I'm going to grab the inflate brush and let me go to sub. And what I'm going to do is, I'm still in active symmetry, that's fine because I'm nice and symmetrical, but essentially I just want to press this in. And the reason I'm pressing this in is because this is where the eyeball is going to go, right? So something along these lines, maybe just make this a little bit larger and really just press this in. And let's just see if we like that. We could do control and drag to make sure we don't have anything weird. We can also grab the move brush and very carefully adjust some of this too, right? You don't want to make this too large because, again, we can't play with scale because we got the scale down by tracing our or blocking our shape, right? So, but just very carefully, we can just adjust this and get something like this. Next, I definitely want to insert that sphere in there. So to do that, we already know how to do that. I'm going to go to subtool and I'm going to insert a sphere, and that's going to be my eye, right? To get the eye into position, let's go into the side view, jump out of the perspective view. Let's snap by holding the shift key, put it into position and just scale it down, right? And just scale it where it makes sense and it kind of fits into this whole space right here. If it's helpful for you, you can also turn this on, which is going to be transparency mode, and that's going to give you a really good view. It does look like the eye is, you know, is almost like this, right? So what we need to do is we can, of course, scale this, and let's adjust some of that, right? I'm going to jump out of transparency mode, grab my move, and let's do Alt, select that shape, make sure symmetry is on, and let's just adjust this a little more, right? So it's hugging the eyeball, something along these lines. I think that's great. Okay, let's take a look. I like that. I think that's cool. Now, how do we get this really awesome eyelid going? So to do that, I would like to take this eye. Let's go ahead and turn it into Dynamesh. That's fine. And we could polish it to make it a little smoother. If you think it's still a little too low poly, maybe we can make it, instead of 128, let's do 256, right? Let's do control and drag and do a little polish. And I think that's a little bit better, right? Just give us just a little more res for the eye. It's only 10,000 points, so it's still pretty low. And now let's use this shape to create the eyelid. So I'm gonna duplicate this, right? Now I have two of them. And I'm gonna take this top one and just, we can inflate it. And by the way, my UI, if you wanna follow any one of my tutorials, my UI is available on my community tab. You can just download it. It's a Dropbox link, and it's gonna have the zip file with all of the UI that I'm using. Even the brushes are included if you wanna grab that. And there's two things we can do right now. We can scale this and, you know, make sure it's centered. Obviously it's gonna be centered. And we can just scale it just a little bit. That's one way of doing it. You can also inflate it. Same, doesn't really matter. Gonna give you the same effect, but essentially I just made the eyelid a little bit larger than the inner part of the eye. And now what I can do is I can just cut it off, right? So I'm gonna Control Shift, go into I'm gonna go into my quick picks here, go into knife curve, and I'm holding the Control Shift the entire time. Now what I'm gonna do is from right to left, I'm gonna draw a line. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let go of Control and Shift, press spacebar to move this around now. And let's just cut off the bottom of the eyelid. So something like that, right? That should give us something really close to what we need. And now we can sculpt this into an eyelid that is, you can see that it's separate from the, you know, from this eye piece, and it's separate from kind of the, you know, the base, right? So it's like its own little component. And what I want to do is I definitely want to create this really nice detail right there. So I'm just going to do the same thing. Let's just make this large enough where it's kind of matching the deform. I'm going to find the right angle too, just a little bit forward, and just push this down, right? And then let me see if I can match this, what I'm seeing there, right? So something, this seems to be up, and this is down. So something along these lines, maybe. I wouldn't mind to kind of fatten this up a little bit, so I am going to inflate this just a little. And I like what's happening there, that's fine. I'm going to control and drag and do a little polish. And now you see what I did, I made this a little bit thicker. I'm going to do Alt and click on this. And let me just adjust this just a little bit to make sure it fits nicely. I don't want to have any spaces in there, although that is kind of cool actually, but we don't want to do that, right? But we want to adjust this just enough where it looks like it's fitting in there and it's kind of snugly fits in there, right? And if for whatever reason, if you wanted to make this inflate that, you can always use the inflate brush and just inflate all of, oops, go to add, of course, and just inflate all of this, right? You can do that. You can see it's a little bit inflated on the very top there. So maybe something like that, right? Maybe that's a little too much. I could hold down the Shift key, smooth this out, but you get the idea. So I'm just showing you all the different tools. Now look at these little things right there. We have a little thing right here, right past the eye. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna add like a little bubble here. Okay, and then I have another one there. So I'm just gonna keep using my inflate brush, why not? It doesn't really matter. Let's do that, and let's do another one here. And now we can make it a little bit longer by using the move brush. And of course, make sure your active symmetry is on. And let's just pull this guy out. And pull this guy out. And this one seems to be a little bit smaller. You know, I don't know how crazy we want to get as far as like following the exact reference, but let's just get as close as we can, the best we can do, right? Without spending too much time. Obviously, I don't want to spend hours and hours trying to get it perfect, but get it as close as we can so Adam doesn't yell at us when he sees this, if he sees this. And I'm going to do something like this, right? Again, just looking at the reference. And I think all of that is pretty good. I'm seeing a lot of really nice lines there. To get those going, we just need to use something like even Damien Standard would work. So let's just grab Damien Standard. And if you have a tablet, this would be a good place for that to, you know, to just draw some lines. I'm in sub mode. My Damien Standard is set to 33 right now. I don't know if that's good or not. I think it's fine. And active symmetry is on. And let's just do, let's see, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3. So I have like 3 lines here. You can do 1, and then you can press 1 on your keyboard to make them stronger if you want. So that's a thing. You could do that. Let's do 1. Let's do 1 more. Right? So I think that's pretty close. I have another line right underneath the second bump, which is right here somewhere. There's a little bit distance there. You know, again, you don't have to be that precise. All right here, this is interesting, right? It has like a little, let's inflate this part too, right here. And we have another little blob there. So do something like this. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Let's do control and drag to re-Dynamash everything. And you know, you can even do it a couple times if you need to polish this just a little bit. I'm gonna go to like, you know, like 7 or 8 and do control drag again and just make sure. It looks like I might need more resolution here actually, but I'm just gonna stay away from needing more. If you want to pinch these, go to pinch, and we can just pinch this right here, right? So it looks a little more organic right there. Okay, I do feel like this is not enough res actually. Let me go to, let's go to 512. We'll double it. Do control and drag, and now we just went well, we went from like 200 to 891,000, but I think this is better, right? Because now it's gonna, let's polish this. It's gonna give us a lot cleaner sculpt. I think that's what we want. All right, so we'll do that. And then I'm seeing some lines there, so I'm gonna do those. And very carefully, let's just see if we can maybe turn this down a little bit. And let's just see if we can add something similar. I see 2 there. Okay. And if you hold on the shift key, right now I'm smoothing at 100%. Remember, you can hold on the shift key and you can change the, not the RGB one, but the intensity of smoothing could be adjusted as well. So, you know, maybe you want to do 50 while you're doing this, so you don't lose some of this detail completely as you're smoothing this stuff. So you have full control, right? That's important. Just really would like to have this a little bit nicer. All right. That's fine. Let's take a look and see. I think that is really good. Let's see, what else can we do? I see some lines right there, so I'm going to do, let's do Alt and select this shape, grab our move, and this feels like it's a little bit too low. Maybe something like this. And I have this really nice, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to create that effect here in 3D, but some of this has this really nice thickness right there, right? So maybe the sides could just be poking out just a little more. And I'm just showing you, for anyone who is super new, how important it is to pay attention to every little detail, especially if you're trying to recreate something, right? And this right here needs to be 512 as well. Let's just bump this up. Control and drag. And you have this nice detail right there. If you wanted to, you can turn the lazy mouse on, right? That's going to give you more control. So I see something like that, and then there's a third one up here. Maybe smooth out the ends of it and just have something like that. I think it's pretty close. All right. I think that's pretty much it for the top here, right? Let's just keep going. I'm gonna zoom out and see what could be next. Let's just continue working on the bottom part right here. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create the shell first, and then the brain is gonna be more like when we're painting, we can create another piece inside. So it's probably not gonna be part of this video. Because that's going to be it's more like a texturing trick, I think. So that's fine. So I like this. Let's go ahead and create these lines, and we can figure out how many we need. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Let's do the same thing. I'm going to press Alt, select this shape right here, make my brush just a little bit larger. And the first one is going to be right underneath this antenna, or I guess the eye. So this is going to be like right there. All right, so I put the 8 lines in just like Adam has. And if we wanted to, we could use the inflate to maybe add a little more roundness right here, right? We could do that. Let's fluff this up a little and just create a little more volume so it looks like you can see these really nice curves that the character has. So let's do the same thing, right? Just go around and just add that same kind of effect. All right, so very quickly we got something that looks very similar, right? I think that looks good. Let's do Control and drag to redynamesh, and we can smooth this out if we needed to. Some of these lines right here, I would love to pinch them as well. I'm gonna grab my pinch and just do something like this. And look at the before and after, right? You can see that the pinching is gonna make these looking very sharp versus, I know I could have probably achieved that with my Wacom tablet here, but I was not able to do it. So I'm just gonna help myself and do, because I like this to be, you know, this is kind of bubbly, and then you have this line, and then you have this really sharp end on both sides, right? I think that's really important. And if we have something super wobbly, we don't have to worry about this, because we can always smooth this part out. We can always also, you know, Z-remesh this if you wanted to get rid of anything super blobby or whatever. But I think this works because this is a very organic looking character. Okay. Now the next thing is going to be, let's add these little bubbles that we're seeing, right? These really cool bubbles sticking out from his head. So to do that, I think I could just literally just use an insert brush. I'm gonna go to my brushes, I'm gonna press I, and let me insert a something like sphere is fine. Let's grab this insert sphere, and I'm gonna make sure that my active symmetry is on. Let's just mimic something very similar, right? We have like a little one here, and when you start inserting these, you can see that there's going to be a spacing issue initially, and to control that, you can use something called right here. You have the depth controller, and if you're not sure where that is, that's going to be under brush, depth brush placement. So I just have it dragged on my UI, but controlling these is going to give you the depth control. So now if I try to, let me go to the side again, and let's just, you know, start dragging these, right? You can see that right now he's in a little more, but maybe, you know, maybe actually that seems to be pretty perfect actually, but you get the idea. So you can control that, right? Maybe this is just a little bit too big, and I'm just going to try to copy what I'm seeing here. I see like two little ones, one a little bit bigger here. For this part here, I think I'm gonna jump out of symmetry and just do like one big one in the middle, because I think this is gonna be more of on the middle, right? And I suppose that makes more sense. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's gonna be better better if this was centered, right? And that feels pretty cool. I see that it doesn't really have anything closer to the middle here, so this does seem to be somewhat empty, because it's going to reveal that brain underneath, right? And of course, you know, we can paint all of that as a poly paint as well. Let's do Control and drag to get rid of our mask. We can see what that looks like so far, right? Some of this obviously has different shaping, so some of these are a little bit longer and different size. So to fix that, we can always use our move topology, which is really nice because it's going to allow you to only do specific things without worrying about, you know, messing up the rest of the mesh. So like this one right here is a little bit longer. I'm going to press my symmetry on and just make this same thing, just make it a little bit longer. This right here is a little bit longer. It's not quite perfectly round, right? Then you have that one. Here is a little bit different size, and just get it as close as we can to the reference. I missed the fourth one, right? There's a fourth one on top. Let me go back into my IMM brush. And let me insert that little fourth one that I'm seeing right there. Okay, very cool. Control and drag to get rid of it. And I think that is very close. We can be perfectionist and we can even overlay it, right? You can always do Shift Z, remember that. And you have this to overlay it. And if you wanted to do that, that would be one way. I'm going to press Shift Z again to hide it. But that would be one way to get it exactly precise. If you jump out of the perspective view and really, really align those, right? You could do that. But I'm kind of eyeballing it, and I think, in my opinion, this is really, really close, right, to what I'm seeing. I'm not loving this eyelid. I think the eyelid needs a little more work. It feels like the bottom of the eyelids are a little more puffy, which I absolutely love. So I'm going to use the inflate brush, and let's go ahead and turn on lazy mouse. And what I'm going to do is I just need to kind of inflate the bottom of this with a little more intensity, right? So I'm going to use the lazy mouse and just see if I can just inflate the bottom of this eyelid right there. I think that's important, right? So let's do that. I don't really mind that it's getting a little blobby, that's okay. I am in 512 resolution, so I can do Control and drag to redynamesh and smooth this out very quickly, right? And let me just really emphasize this right here, because Adam has, this part is really kind of sticking out. I love that. Okay. If we wanted to, another trick we could do is we can use the, let's see, we can use the trim dynamic with lazy mouse on just a little bit, and we can press this in, not too much, right? I don't want to do too much. Let me just do like 4. But what I could do is I can go through and just press this in a little and give it like more of a flat look for maybe the front of the eye. I think that actually works, right? We can even do the same thing here. And that's going to give this, create like a nice line there. And I think that's a little bit better, right? Just a little love on the eyelid makes a big difference in my opinion. One other thing that I would suggest at this point, if you wanted to, you can always change your materials and just preview your work. I like to use this, let me move my reference. I like to use this polyskin to do a preview. And this is really cool, right? Because it's going to give you this really nice effect of previewing your mesh. Let me select the next, so these are like all the same colors. So you can see what that looks like, and I think we are on a really good solid track for this, right? It gives me a lot of confidence knowing as I'm sculpting this that I overlaid to create the base mesh. So I know I don't have to go around and adjust how this feels, right? The sizing or the position of this, because I literally traced this, right? The only thing I need to do really is just focus on the details. So tracing the base mesh is super important. And you know, you guys, I also know that there's a lot of new tools out there, like you can run some of these images through AI and that's going to give you base meshes. But in my opinion, this is a much better way of doing it as an artist, right? Because you learn so much by doing it manually. And honestly, if you want to, you know, not cheat and become a better artist, this is a better way to do it, because then you kind of work on those skills and those muscles to understand how the shapes feel and their proportions and scaling. So, you know, as much as you can, try to avoid, in my opinion, unless you're like a crazy speed crunch for work or something. If you're doing it for fun and just learning, definitely do it manually instead of using some of those newer tracing AI tools, right? All right, so now I'm going to start touching this up. Let me actually adjust this neck a little more, and I can see that this right here is much thicker, right? It's going inside right here, and this whole part right here is just a little bit thicker. So I can start adjusting some of that as well. And it's definitely uneven. It has some hairs. We can do some fiber mesh for that too. But let me just adjust this so it doesn't look kind of strange here, right? And you can see how all of this is very uneven. I can hold on the shift key and make this a little bit nicer, but you can see that we are going to have to go in and add those folds and everything, right? Very cool. Let's just keep going, right? So I think all of this back here is finished. Let's talk about the front of the eye and the fact that the bottom jaw part right here is kind of going inside. You can see these lines right here, like all of this is going inside, right? So technically all of this here needs to be over more. So I'm going to press Alt and grab this guy and literally just start pushing this in. And what I'm going to do is do something like this, right? Let's do Control and drag to clean this up if we need to. Let's grab this, and essentially I want to create kind of this same effect where you have like this place for the teeth, right? So let's just start pulling all of this down right here. It's almost like a skull in some strange way. And I see some sharp things here as well. So I'm just going to create a place where I can insert some teeth and do something like this. I think is good, right? If we wanted to flatten some of that for our teeth, remember we can use our Damien standard, our trim dynamic, and just maybe flatten this a little so we can insert some of those teeth in there. Although this is kind of, somewhat round, but I think this would be nice addition. And give us a little more form. If we wanted to start pulling out some of these sharp things that I'm seeing right there, let's talk about that, right? I can see that this here needs to be pulled a little more, right? It's kind of pulled all the way to the back. All of those little details I think are really important, right? So I want to pull all this the same way, or I guess again as close as we can. And now what I'm gonna do is let me grab this here and start pulling this down more, right? All right. And let's see. So now to get these little sharp things, what I can do is I can grab my move, active symmetries on. I can turn on my AccuCurve, make my brush just a bit smaller, and I can start pulling out some of this stuff. So like this big one right here could just be something like this. And if I wanted to add that nice curve there, I'm going to get out of the AccuCurve mode and just kind of move this up and create kind of the same. You can see this really nice curve there. Let's go ahead and do the same thing. Okay. Somewhat unusual, right? Let's do Control and drag. Let's smooth this out. Really smooth this out because we don't want these edges to be too sharp, but we can also move them around, make sure they don't look too blobby, right? And all of that is really cool and fun. All right, let's see. So what's next? I want to talk about this eyeball right here. So let's create the eye here the same exact way as we did up there, right? So same exact way would be, let's just grab the inflate brush and let's just literally press this in. And when you press it in, just pay attention to the spacing of the bottom, where this tooth is, right? So you want to make sure you understand the spacing right here, and also the spacing between, I don't know what to call this, top eye, or like in the antenna, eye antenna. So the spacing right here is important, and the spacing right here is important, right? So what I'm going to do is go to sub mode. Let me jump out of the lazy mouse and literally just start pressing all of this in right here, right? And I want to create kind of a large place to insert my eye. So I'll do something like that. It's starting to do something really crazy. If that happens on your end, just do Control and drag and just smooth this out. And then that should allow you to press this even more. And at this point, if I click, let me do Alt and click on this shape. I actually don't need this, so I'm going to press this down, right? That's part of the neck. Let's do Alt and click on this one. And now what we need to do is just kind of create kind of that same feel and look. Just move this around, create like a lip there. All right, and before I do any more sculpting, I think it would be good to insert the eye back in. So I'm going to do Insert. Let's do that eye, go into a side view like we did before. And I can also, let me turn it into, I think it was 256, right? We did Dynamesh. Grab my move. And let's just get it into position and make sure it feels good and, it makes sense from this side, right? From this side, this looks pretty good. Now I can go here and start adjusting it and see if I can mimic what I'm seeing here, which is going to be, let's see. So this guy right here is going to be a little bit lower, right? The bottom lid. Let's do, let's press Alt. And let's just push all of this down. I'm going to press it down and I'm going to really pay attention to the fact that this is folding a little bit. So I need to create kind of a similar effect there as well. Let me grab the inflate. Let's do add. Let's turn the lazy mouse on. And let's just puff this up a little right here. And I'm going to do the same thing up here as well. And you know what? As I'm doing this, let's just make that eyelid on the bottom nice and exaggerated, right? And before I do the top one, I do need to make sure that this eyeball is in the right position and is the right scale, right? So let me adjust that a little more. And just like before, right, we'll create the eyelid from this sphere here, so that's fine. All of this here needs to be forward more, so I'm just going to use the inflate. And to add that fold, let me add a little more folds here. So I'll just kind of start raising this up. And the reason I'm doing that is because I see like there's another little fold behind it, right? Which I really like. I think that's really cool and important, right? You want to have that effect of like double fold, especially for the eye, right? I think that's cool. And I'm still in 512 Dynamesh, so I'm going to Control and drag, just clean this up. If I wanted to, I can also grab my Damien standard, just create maybe a little bit more of a line here. All right, and as I said before, if I see something super wobbly, I can always use my trim dynamic to kind of flatten this a little and just make it a little cleaner. Really cool. Now to get the eyelid going, let's do the same thing. I'm just gonna grab this eye, duplicate it just like we did before, right? Grab the top one, and this time I'm just gonna inflate it a little. And that's gonna be the eyelid. And if I wanted to, I could actually get the shape of this by doing Control and Shift, and instead of using a knife, no, let's use the knife. Let's do Control and Shift. Let's start dragging, and you want to make sure that this gradient part is in the bottom. So let me flip this over actually. So I think it's almost something along these lines. I'm going to make a cut, and that's going to give me the eyelid shape. Now, of course, I can go to Move and manually move this around. Just like before, I wouldn't mind this to be a little bit thicker, so I'm going to inflate this whole thing. And I'm going to re-Dynamesh this. And just like before, I'm going to add, use the inflate brush to create those nice inflates in the front of the eyelid, right? Let's use our Damien standard to press this in and add a couple lines there, right? Just like we're seeing in the reference. Maybe this one is actually a little bit too big. And we can smooth some of this out. And I'm going to use Trim Dynamic to maybe, again, flatten this area up. All right, so let's continue down the shape. So the next thing is going to be, let me think. I think this is going to be the teeth, right? And I'm seeing 1, 2, 3 or 4 on this side. And there's probably more on the other side. So how do we do the teeth? What would be the best way to do that? I think for that, we could just use a sphere as well. So I'm going to insert another sphere, and that's going to be my tooth, right? And the reason I'm using a sphere is because you can see these are very bubbly and round. So I want to do the same thing. So for the teeth, I can even move this down, so I know that's kind of a next one in line. And let me just scale it down and put it into, into a proper position, right? Let's just worry about this big one, and then we'll make the other ones from it, right? So just like I'm seeing there, I'm going to make it a little bit longer. Okay. And let's come over here for a minute. And another thing we can do, of course, grab our move, turn our symmetry on. Let's get AccuCurve. Let's find the very end of this tooth. And to make it sharp, I'm just going to literally just pull it down. Okay. Now, when you're pulling it down, you have to be mindful about the front view as well, right? So just make sure that you are indeed finding kind of the end there. And I think that's pretty good. Now to create that, there's a nice bend there. To do that, I'm just gonna go to Move, and let me literally just use the bend curve modifier and just do something like that, and just literally bend this like this, right? I think it's close enough. I'm gonna go say accept, and let's grab our, let's make this a little bit smaller, and let's just start putting into position. Just gonna put one here, and it does seem to be very close to the eye and somewhat larger, right? So I'm going to try to do the same thing. Let me actually turn this tooth into a 256 Dynamesh, and I can do a little bit of a polish, and I think that's going to give me the topology I'm looking for. I like the top of the tooth and the bottom. I think that's very close to what I'm seeing here. Couple things, right? I'm looking, and this does still feel like it's closer to the eyelid even more. So you know what? Let me grab my eyelid, actually select it, and I would like to add a little detail here as well. Let me just press this in a little more. I can press 1, remember, to make it more dramatic. Smooth this out. I see some bunching up right there, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to do something like this. I just want to stay close to the reference as much as I can. It's literally just sketching this part in. All right, I think that's pretty good. Now it does feel like it's a little bit closer to what I'm seeing here. And what I'm going to do is press Alt, select this, and let me just pull this part. Let me jump out of the OcuCurve mode and just literally just pull this up, right? Again, I'm just trying to really stay as close as I can to the reference. And this thing is just so close to his eye. All right. Now to get this tooth right there, all we need to do is just simply duplicate it. Now I have 2 of them. Grab my move and just literally just move it to the side. Definitely jump out of the symmetry mode. And essentially what I want to do is maybe make it just a little bit smaller, and of course rotate it a little bit, right? I can adjust this to make sure it matches, right? I can grab my move brush, and I need to make sure that this here is actually overlapping the tooth a little better, and then you have the straight line shooting down. So I'm going to do the same thing. Do something like that. All right, to make it look like these teeth are really part of this, I'm going to grab my inflate, and let me just add just a little bit of a kind of a little inflate right here to make it look like they're inset inside the teeth, right? And it's very subtle, but I think for 3D, that's really important, that it looks like it's actually inset right here. And now to duplicate these teeth over, right? Let's just smooth this out so it's not so strong. To duplicate these, I'm going to grab this. Let me do a flip and do a mirror and weld. Click Alt on this one. I'm going to mirror it across, do mirror and weld, and now I have teeth going all the way around, right? Make sure that makes sense. Let me grab this one, and it still feels like it should be somewhat angled a little bit more. At least for the 3D version, I think that just feels pretty great, right? So right there, I think is what we want. Don't forget to save your work if you're following me along. Okay, so next let's talk about his mouth. So I'm looking inside the mouth, and you can see there's a cavity, right? So I'm going to grab my inflate, click Alt, and click on the bottom jaw here. And right now we're really low resolution at 128. I think that's a little bit too low. Let's go ahead and increase this to 512, just so we can start adding some folds and anything else we need. So do Control and drag. That's going to give me 848,000 points. All right, I think that's good. I'm going to smooth this out, and holding down the Alt key with the inflate brush, I'm going to start kind of creating the same effect that I'm seeing here, where you're just pushing in the mouth inside, right? For the tongue, I think the easy switch to get the tongue going was going to be using another sphere. So I'm going to keep inserting spheres. Let me insert another one. This is going to be my tongue. and I see that there's double tongue, which is really cool. I actually had never seen that before. Let me go into a side view, and you know what, before I do it right here, let me just kind of sculpt it into what I need it to be first, kind of out here in the space, right? And let's look at this tongue. So we have kind of two pieces overlapping each other, and we can do the same kind of effect by let's just grab this piece and make it just a little bit smaller, and then we'll let's do another one, and then you know what, let's just do something like this, right? That's going to be the base of the tongue. Do Control and drag to make another one, and then we'll do something like that where it's kind of, this is going to be the top section, right? So I think something like that is great. Grab our move, let's turn AccuCurve on, turn Active Symmetry on, and it's a sharp tongue, so I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to pull it out. All right, turn the AccuCurve off, and let's go ahead and do Control and drag to get rid of the masking. Control drag again to I'm going to go back into Dynamesh mode and kind of seal these together, but I want to do it at 512 as well. So do that and do Control and drag, and now I have this really nice line that I'm seeing right there as well, right? I don't really need it to be here, so I'm going to get rid of this one, but I do like it here. Now it is a tongue, so it's going to have two kind of inflated sides. So let's just do the same thing. I'm going to Active Symmetry and literally just inflate kind of both of these sides here and create something like that. Let's just sculpt this into what we are seeing there, and of course it has this really nice press right there in the middle, right? I like that, and it has a really sharp line there too, right? So that's Damien standard. You can just press this in and do one. Let's press one a bunch of times. And if you're not happy with the alignment of this, I can do, let me undo this. And let me do, I'm gonna click, hold on the Shift key, make a green line, and then release the Shift. And then press one a bunch of times. And that's just gonna give me a perfect line down the middle. Do Control and drag to reDynamesh and just smooth this out, right? And now I have something very similar to what I'm seeing here. I don't know if what else I need to do. I think I'm going to take this top part and just do something like this, and just really just pull this down, right? So in my opinion, this is very close to what that is, and now I just need to put it in position, right? So let's just make sure we happy with it, because we're going to make two of them, right? So any kind of addition or anything else that you want to do, this is your time to do it. And I think that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and scale it a little more, just maybe make it a little smaller, go into a side view, and initially I'm just going to put it right there, right? And I can rotate it too, and let's just decide what the size of this needs to be. There's going to be two of them. Now keep in mind, whenever you're doing scale, always jump out of the symmetry, right? Because that's going to completely destroy your shape. So one of the things that we could see is that we need more, we need to press this part in. So I'm going to do Alt and click on this and grab my move. And let me just literally just take all of this here and just push it in, right? Because all of that is going to be kind of the mouth part, right? So we need this to be a cavity, more of a cavity kind of a shape. So that's important, right? Let's push all of this in. I think that's great. I'm going to grab my inflate brush and let me just inflate this right here just a little more, just so I have, I kind of maintain this almost like a, I guess like a lip, right? Going all the way around. Do Control and drag, clean this up. I keep using Trim Dynamic to press in anything that I want to make less blobby. That's my own, right here you can see I have like these 3 blobs. I don't like them, so I'm just gonna make my brush kind of large and just literally just file them down. That's a good word, filing them down. That's what I'm doing. So you can see how very quickly I can just like get rid of that and make it nice and clean, right? Very cool. I don't really need this here either. Let me clean this up. And And I think that is pretty close to what I'm seeing there. Now with the tongue, I need to make sure that it does go all the way down. So let me turn on the transparency mode and just literally just push this bottom down, right? So something like that. Let's turn our X symmetry on, just make it a little bit wider. Clean this up. All right, very cool. And now we just need to make sure that we have two of them, right? So I'm gonna grab my move, put it on the side, right here. Turn symmetry off. Let's do one on the side. To make another one, I'm just gonna do a duplicate and a mirror. And now I have two of them side by side, but they're not, you know, they're still separate tools. So we have still full control over these. I think that's important, right? And let's take a look and see, go into a perspective view. And now with this double tongue, and I think that feels pretty cool. We can do any final adjustments that we need, but the next thing that I'm seeing is going to be the teeth. And I think it would be silly to make another one. Let's just steal this one. So I'm going to press Alt and click on the front tooth, and let me duplicate it, go to the side view, jump out of the perspective view, grab my move, and I'm looking to get this one going first. So I'm just gonna literally move it into position, and I need to flip it over, right? It's facing the wrong way. So if you want to flip it over, right, instead of mirroring on X, I know that the front is gonna be Z, right? So what I could do is I can turn X off, put Z on, and just do a mirror. And now if you click on, if you check the tooth, you can see that it's actually facing the other way. Let's click on this to center it. And we can also unlock it, reset our pivot, lock this back up. And now we have a tooth that we stole from here, but it's very similar to what we need here, right? We just maybe make it a little bit longer, and we can of course adjust the shape of it, but essentially we just want to, you know, do something like this, right? You can see that the tooth, the top of the tooth is aligned with the top here. So it's going to be more like that, right? I think that's pretty much perfect. All right, and just like before, I'm going to press Alt and select the bottom part of the jaw and just create kind of little indentations for, you know, to make sure that the teeth feel like they're inset inside the shape, right? So let's just literally inflate the very edges of these just a little bit and create something that feels something along these lines. I think that's a good good decision. Let's go ahead and do that for this tooth as well. All right, and then this way it matches the top, and you can see the reference has that a little bit as well, the little insets. I added a little bit of detail here that I'm seeing right there. And I could even pinch this as well if I wanted to. To get the teeth on the other side, just like we've been doing, let's just simply mirror them across, right? All right, so to continue, let's take a look. I think everything is really good. It does feel like the tongue on my end is just a little bit too large. These seems to be somewhat smaller, so I can address that in a minute. One thing I want to point out for anyone who is doing this kind of work, once you build your base shapes and you add all the details, you know, going back and doing little touch-ups and proportion adjustments, it's almost like, you know, yet another thing that you need to do in addition to putting the detail in. The time to adjust little tiny things could be incredibly time-consuming and infinitely long, right? All right, so let's just continue. So at this point, I'm really liking everything that I'm seeing. I could say that maybe the tongue on my end is just somewhat, just a little bit too large. If I wanted to quickly adjust that, let me do that. If I select one of them, let me just see where are they both. So they are right next to each other. So technically, if I wanted to, you know, I could just combine them into one. Let's just do that so we can also scale them together at the same time. So I'm just going to merge them down, and I'm going to say okay. So now they're in the same layer, both tongues. But if I turn on my polyframe and do auto groups, they should technically be different polygroups, right? So this one is kind of a, I don't know if you could see it, but they're definitely two different colors. And they are touching, right? So I don't want to, I'm going to jump out of Dynamesh mode. I don't really want to blend them. I want to keep them separate. But for this next little tiny adjustment, I wanted to put them on the same layer just so I can play with scale, right? So now if I go into move and let me go into transparency mode, let's go ahead and unlock this, reset this, and let's just put the pivot like somewhere right here. I'm going to lock this back up and make sure that it's in the center, which it's not. So let me adjust that really quick. I want it to be right here in the center. And essentially what I want to do is, let me jump out of transparency mode. I just want to have the tongue to be somewhat close to what I'm seeing in the reference. So I know that mine is just a little bit too large. So let me just start kind of getting it down. I think it's more like this, right? I can even move this back maybe. And it's a little bit hard too, because there's two different modes, right? There's the orthographical view and the perspective view. And they are, because you're in 3D, it's going to, it's going to be sometimes a little bit hard to decide what size things are. But making this smaller definitely feels a little bit better, right? I think that's a little bit closer. It does feel like this front jaw is pushed back maybe a little more too. So I could see if that's necessary, but I'm pretty happy with this. I think this is pretty good, right? The next big thing is definitely going to be the neck. I'm looking at the neck and it has these three really interesting parts, right? Let's address that next. So I'm going to press Alt and click on my neck. And one thing I don't want this line here that I have, right? So let me deal with this really quickly. How can I do this? So I can do Control and drag. I can do a Shift. And let's just literally just melt this down, because we are in such low resolution in the Dynamesh mode. I can literally just melt this away and keep going. And you know what? If I hold on the Shift key, I can bump up my intensity. Remember, we adjusted that earlier. And just really make this nice and smooth, right? All right, very cool. I'm going to jump out of the perspective view for a second. And to get these three, I don't know what they're called, neck parts, pieces, panels, strips, straps, I don't know. I definitely need a little more neck here. So this is not enough neck for me. So what I'm going to do is I keep jumping between move with active symmetry and the move infinite, right? They're both equally amazing. So what I want to do is essentially I just need to push this back down and give me more room to create the three strips, right? And I'm going to do as the reference, kind of cut off, obviously, the design right here. And I think that should be enough, right? So we'll do like a bust. And now if I'm looking, if I'm spinning this around, I like how how it looks from the side, right? Let's just make sure that we are indeed liking this. I like this space right here. You can see how this neck right here is kind of following the jawline. So here's my jawline, and then here's the neck, and the spacing between my neck and the reference neck is definitely way too large, right? So all of that detail is super important, and it just takes a lot of time to just do little touch-ups that are necessary, right? So let's just really zero in just on this section here. A lot of times when you have a really complex design such as this, and there's so many things going on, the secret is to just focus on one little tiny section and fully move into it and just worry about that section only. And that's what I do. It's something that you have to train yourself as an artist when you're doing more complex designs, to just zero in on specific little elements, And right now, let's just look at this neck only. And I'm just gonna adjust this a little more and decide if this works. I think it does, right? So this feels a little bit better. And then it kind of grows out, right here. So it's kind of getting to be a little thicker. And then of course, you know, that's going to be his body, right? There's like a little bump here. We could, you know, I don't know if that's important or not, but I have a little bump here as well. And I see a bunch of creases and folds here, which we can add shortly. But what I need to do next is I need to create these little strips. And essentially all I need to do really is just make one and then copy it, right? So what would be the best way to model something like this? This is really interesting. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use masking, and then I'll just use extract with a cut tool. And that is what I think I'm going to do, right? And before I do, I just need to make sure that it does feel really nice from all the angles. So for example, if I go in the back of the character, I'm not loving this bump going out like this. So all of this is really important for sculpting, right? I just want to make sure that anyone who's doing this with me, it's really important to kind of in slow motion spin it around and just make sure that all the shapes feel really good from every angle, because it might look good from, you know, the side, the front, and the top, but then 45 degrees in and you could see maybe something that you're not loving and you just want to adjust it just a little bit. And a lot of times it just takes little tiny adjustments. So that's the big secret in sculpting, is just these little tiny movements, little adjustments. That's what will take your sculpt from you know, pretty good to amazing. So it just takes time. All right, let's see. So, and I'm not saying by no means that I'm at that point. I just kind of know what it takes. But of course, I would say it takes many, many years of practice, right? So one of the things that I'm realizing, even on my sculpt right now, if I just look at the reference in mine, you know, my eye is catching the fact that this right here feels a little bit different. So I can actually go in and maybe do something similar, right? I kind of like how this kind of blobs down or pulls down almost like gravity is pulling it. I don't have that, right? I think that's really cool. All right, even this is a little bit better. Okay, so let's do the neck. What would be the good way to address the neck? All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is obviously select my neck. And we could stay in perspective view if we wanted to, doesn't really matter. But my Dynamesh resolution here needs to be much higher for me to get a nice extraction out of this. So 128 is way too low. Let me jump, I'm gonna jump way high to like 512. And right now it's at 45,000 points. If I do control and drag, I went to 900,000, right? That's a huge jump. But now if I press control key, and my mask pen is selected right in my quick picks here. So if I hold on the control key and start masking it out, you can see that I get a nice clean kind of a mask. And I can use this technique to extract the panels that I want in the perfect shape. So what I need to do is I'm gonna press S, make my brush just a little bit smaller, and literally just draw what I'm seeing here, right? So just have to be careful of where it's starting. It's starting from somewhere around here, I think. So I'm gonna do that same thing, and I'm not gonna worry about these ridges and these little things. I just need to make a kind of a straight panel first, and we can use the knife tool to create all those other little elements that are little cuts and things, right? So essentially this should work. Make sure your active symmetry is on if you're doing this with me. And I just want to go around. I could see that this is kind of flipping up a little bit. I like that. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to flip this up just a little, something like that, right? All of that is important. And we can make all these adjustments. Let's just press Control key and just maybe color this in. So essentially we're just drawing the strap that we will extract from this geometry, right? Like extra. If you needed to clean something up, press Control and Alt. And now you can make some cleanup. You can erase some of these lines if that's something you need to do. And it doesn't need to be precise. Again, we can clean all this up. But just go around and make sure it's meeting here, right? Let's go ahead and do that all the way around. All right, so I'm gonna do that, go all the way around here and connect this line here. Let's go ahead and color this in, make sure we don't have any gaps or patches. And that should be pretty much perfect, right? Now, how do I extract this? Well, to extract it, what I need to do is go to, yeah, we need to stay in Subtool. Let's come down here where it says extract. And even if we leave everything as is, the thickness by default is 0.02. If I say extract, you can see that something was extracted, but I can't from this angle tell the thickness of it. So I'm going to turn this a little bit and do it one more time. And honestly, I think this is actually perfect. So I'm liking this. I'm going to say accept. As soon as I press accept, a new layer was created, but you could see that it's still masked. I'm going to do Control and drag to get rid of mask. And you can also see, if you look carefully, on the previous layer up here, if I hide the portion that we extracted, this is still masked as well. A lot of times this will mess you up. So make sure you clear your mask after you extract. So Control and drag to clear that out. It's important. And now we have this, right? Now, keep in mind, we don't need to make all of these, you know, the same way. We can just do one and then we can cut it, right? Now, here's the thing. If we start creating the cuts on this one, then all the cuts are going to look exactly the same and it's going to look like we copied it, right? So what I propose that we do is let's make the 3 straps, you know, we'll put them in position like these, like little steps. And then we'll use the knife on each one and individually essentially mess them up. And by doing that, we're going to get a unique design on each, right? So it doesn't look like we just cheated and just simply, you know, made one and copy pasted it 2 more times, right? So I'm going to do that. So the first thing I want to do here is let's turn this into Dynamesh. So I'm going to go, I need a lot more resolution again. 512 is good. I'm going to do Dynamesh. And now this is about 178,000 points. It should be fine. And one thing that I need to do now is I need this to be perfectly straight. Right now it's very kind of uneven and blobby, right? So let's use the knife tool. I'm going to do Control Shift, grab the knife, and what I could do is just simply, I'm going to make a cut. So I'm going to press Alt and do something like this. And I do like that angle right there, so I'll do something along these lines. And now I have this sharp angle, just like I'm seeing here. And then there's a sharp, nice clean line coming down. Let's do the same thing here. Let's do something like this. Press Alt, just make this nice turn here. And we can hold on the space bar, obviously, to move this around. But something along these lines I think is pretty perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and make a cut. And now I have this nice clean line. And if I needed to clean up anything else, maybe, you know, the part where it meets together with the bottom part, I can chop that up, and that's perfectly fine, right? Maybe not even, you just have to make sure that you find the right angle if you do decide to do what I'm doing. So I just want to do something like that. I think that's fine. All right, cool. All right, so let's take a look, and I'm liking all this. Before I lift these up, you can see how they're kind of lifted up. I'm gonna have mine be kind of flushed against the body at first, and I'm gonna lift them up once I make the other 2. So to do this, let's do this. Let's move this all the way down just so we can easily find it, right? I'm getting a lot of subtools at this point. But I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. Now I have 2. And I'm going to jump out of the perspective view, go into side view. And I just want to get the second one into the right position. So I'm going to grab my move. So I need to make sure that I can see both, right? All right, very nice. And now, of course, it's not fitting well. So let me adjust it. Let me go into a transparency mode and just literally pull this out a little bit so I can see it a little bit better, right? And make sure that it's, you know, we can start playing around and making sure it kind of resembles what I'm seeing in the reference. Okay, and then let's do one more, right? So I'm going to say duplicate and do the same thing, grab my move and put the third one down as well. And it's going to be somewhere around here. All right, and now it's just a matter of adjusting it. So let me adjust these around, and I'm going to fast forward through this part just to make sure that I take the time to align them. All right, once you've done the same, next let's add these little cuts, or the little distortion on the bottom. So I'm going to do this from the top down, right? So let's grab the first one, and I am going to do it in symmetry. I think this other side could be exactly the same, and just turn your camera a little bit, right? So this is important. Right now I'm not in perspective view, right? So I know that this is perfectly in alignment, but you could also see that my little stripes or straps are in the angle, right? So I am going to be in the symmetry mode, but I am going to turn my camera like this because I want to make sure that when I cut this, it's on the right angle of of these little things, right? So I'm going to do something like this. This is going to be the angle of my camera. Then do Control Shift and grab my knife tool and just kind of, I'll attempt to follow what I'm seeing here, which is something along, these lines. I'm going to press Alt twice to make a sharp cut, and let's just do, something very similar. I guess it's something like that. Very nice. So at this point, it's going to be just little touch-ups. So for example, if I look at my version here, and let's say I want to stay to the reference as much as I can, right? One of the things personally that I can notice is that this lip right here is pulled down way more than mine, right? I like everything, but let's just together, right? Just for the sake of exercise, let's go over this and see if we can scan and train our eyes to see certain specific details, right? So if I look up here, let's do it together. We can see the top lid is looking pretty well, right? It's matching relatively close. You can see there's this green thing that overlaying the eye. And the one, feedback that you could, one constructive criticism I can tell myself is that maybe mine is just a little bit too thick. But because it is 3D, I feel like that's an important shape to emphasize. These two little things are present, which is good. You have this kind of a bowl right there, some folds, and then it kind of comes down. So we have all of that, which is great. These little, red things, I think are looking pretty good as well. They're somewhat distorted. They're not all even. So all of that detail is important, right? Some of these are not perfectly round, so I have that. Then you have these kind of lines in the back of his head, which are present on my character as well. We don't have the brain yet, right? Obviously, because this part here has to be transparent. So that's more of a next step, which is going to be the texture. But if I come down here, you can see the eye has this shape on the top eyelid, which is really important. And then you have these folds right next to the front tooth. So I have that, right? And that's one of the really important skills too, when you're doing references, to train your eye to focus on every little section of the reference, and and just make sure that it works, right? And then you have the mouth is going to go all the way up almost to that second tooth. So I have that. You have the two little tongues right here, and I think they work well. This right here is just that black area right there, so that's going to be done more, I think, picked up by lighting and rendering, right? Then coming down here, I have this little sack here that's a little extra heavy, so I have that. And you have the two lines in the back, and you have this kind of pulled back a little more, so I tried to do that. And it does look like the jaw is overlapping this here. I don't have that, right? So boom, I just ran into a problem. So that's what it takes, right? Then you find the little things to adjust. So I'm gonna tuck this in a little more. And now maybe if I angle this at the right angle and pull this in, it will look like maybe this is overlapping a little bit better, right? So that's important. Right now it looks like this is overlapping instead of this strap being on top of the jaw, right? That's cool. So I got that. Now these three straps look like you got 1, 2, 3 with these little noise, the little distortions in the bottom. You have the little lines here. The only thing that we're missing now are little fuzzy hairs, right? So we can add that as well, and those could just be fiber mesh. And we can do that in the next step, which is going to be the rendering, or poly painting and rendering, right? I think that's going to be that. So as far as the modeling and sculpting goes, I'm pretty happy with this. I think this is pretty great. The only comment that I have for me personally is that this jaw line right here needs to be much lower. So that creates an interesting point. How do I adjust that with these teeth being on the different layer, right? How would I do that? And I can also do a little BPR too. That's going to be an interesting preview as well. And so to adjust this, what would I do? So what I need to do is I'm going to select the mouth, right? The bottom jaw part. And I'm going to jump out of Dynamesh. I'm kind of done sculpting for now. What I would like to do is I need to find these teeth, and I'm going to put everything on one layer. So if I hold on the Alt and let's just select this tooth, for example, I can see where the teeth are, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge them all in one. So if let me see. So this is the top teeth, right? This one is the bottom one, and this one is the bottom one. So I'm going to merge these two down. Say okay. And again, this is going to be the bottom one, so I'm going to merge this down as well. I just want to merge the bottom ones, right? I don't want the top. And I'm going to merge this down. And this one is the middle one, so merge that down. Okay, so now I have this entire line of teeth. You can see that they're all lighter, right? Meaning they're all in the same layer. Now what I could do is I can select my head, which is all the way up here, and I'm going to move it down to where my teeth are. And I'm going to merge that down as well, right? Now I have this entire jaw with the teeth all on one layer. And if I turn the polyframe on, you can see there's still different polyframes. So I can split them at any time by polygroups, right? I can always go backwards if I needed to. But the cool thing about them being on one layer is that now I can make these small adjustments for sculpting purposes, right? So if I match the angle a little bit better and grab my move, make it somewhat large, make sure my active symmetry is on, I can try to take this third tooth right here and just pull it down all at the same time with the jaw, right? So let me just very slowly attempt to do that and create something very similar to what I'm seeing here. You almost see this big drop here, which I don't even have, right? So all of that right here is just gonna drop down. All right, and I think that's feeling a little bit better, right? All right, and that's what it takes. So I just wanted to kind of show that one little step. And welcome to part 2 of sculpting a monster bust in ZBrush and Blender. So here's the final result. So in this video, we'll take a look at what it would take to poly paint this character in ZBrush. We're not going to do UVs or topology. We're just going to do a high-res poly painting. And then I will take a moment to also decimate the model so I can bring it into Blender and just see how it's looking. All right, so with that said, let's continue. All right, so let's jump right in and pick up where we left off. So this is where we left off on in part 1. So in part 2, let's just continue, right? The next logical thing for us to tackle is going to be creating this really cool effect where you have this almost like a light bulb with a brain inside, right? You have this translucent skin, and you have a brain inside that you can see, and you have this really cool paint on top. Let's go ahead and attempt to essentially create the illusion that this the top of the head is hollow, right? That's empty inside. So how would we do that? What would be the best way to do something like that? I think the best way to do this, right now I am in Dynamesh, and if I press Alt and select my the top of the head, you can see I have about 1 million points, right? Well, one thing I would like to do is I definitely want to split these spheres into a different layer, just so I can kind of focus just on that part of the head. And to get that going, what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and turn on our polyframe, do Control Shift to hide everything, and let's go ahead and go to split hidden. That's gonna put all of these spheres on its own layer, right? We want that, so let's come back here And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift and click on the eye to hide everything else. All right, so now since that's on its separate layer, I'm going to jump out of Dynamesh. I don't really want to re-Dynamesh this. And the next thing I need to do is let's just separate this into two shapes, right? The reason that we want to separate this is because then in Blender we can apply a different material to different parts of the mesh, right? We don't want to be a solid mesh because then we can't apply two different materials. We want to split this, just like we're seeing in the reference, and then apply kind of a translucent glass material to the bottom and then the top being solid, right? So how do we split this? Let me jump out of my polyframe and let me turn my double on just so I can see a little bit better what's happening here. Let's just mask this. So I'm going to do make sure that in my quick picks I have my masked pen selected, my active symmetry is turned on, and what I could do is I can literally just mask out the portion of the head that I want to kind of separate, right? So maybe what I could do is let's at first make it kind of even, and then we can create these little waves afterwards, right? So essentially at first let's just go around and select part of the brain or part of the head, I guess, that we want to separate. So something like this I think is perfect. I can't really see the top, but I'm assuming it's going to be something like this. Now what we could do to create these little waves that we're seeing right here, what we can do is make this brush a little bit smaller, press Control and Alt, and we can just literally just go through and create something a little more interesting. Maybe clean these up a little if you want. And it doesn't need to be exactly as the reference, but essentially just create something that looks like kind of these wavy patterns, right? So it doesn't look perfectly straight. So I'm going to go all the way around, do that, and that should give us what we want. I kind of even like this right there. I think that's cool. So now what we need to do, make sure you don't have anything sharp. If you want to add to your selection, obviously just press Control and that will give you an add. And then if you want to subtract, hold on Control and Alt, and that's going to subtract, right? So you can take the time and clean this up and make it nice. And I kind of like mine. I think that looks good. Okay. Now to split this, what I need to do is I am going to, let's turn this on, polyframe. Let's do Control W, and that's going to essentially give us a different poly group, right? And that should look relatively clean. If this doesn't look clean, do this, go to your light box, go to your brushes, and then go to smooth, double click on smooth, find something called smooth groups, double click on that and say okay. And now what you can do is you can hold on the Shift key and just very quickly go around and make sure that all of this is perfectly clean, right? So go ahead and do that. Make sure that these are nice and clean. You can see the difference, right? If I zoom in, look at this here versus this, right? So very quickly I can smooth this out. And again, make sure your active symmetry is on. And let's go around and make this perfect, because we are going to be separating it. I see some situation right there. I'm not really sure how that happened, but I'm not really worried about that. We could fix that in a second if you have something similar, but essentially just go around, make this nice and smooth, and that should be perfect, right? All right, very nice. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press Control Shift and click on the green, and I'm not sure if you have the same effect, but when I click on mine, I am seeing a lot of strangeness. For some reason, my mesh also got other pieces that are floating all over the place, right? You can see, even though I just masked this out, I'm having all these other issues. But that's really easy to fix. What you want to do is you just want to do auto groups. And by doing auto groups, it's going to separate our bottom one by itself, which means what I can do is I can bring everything back and do Control Shift on it again, and now you can see that I don't have all those other floating pieces because I just did auto groups, right? So ZBrush will automatically select this by itself if that's something you're experiencing as well, right? So now since this is by itself, what I could do is let's go ahead and do split hidden, right? I'm gonna click split hidden. If I come up here, you can see that now I have two layers created. One is this, and the other one is the bottom piece, right? So let's turn both of them on so we can see, jump out of here, and now you should see something very similar to what we're seeing in our reference, where the bottom part is essentially separate, right? It's separate from all the other pieces, or the top piece, which means we can make this transparent, right? Very nice. So that was pretty easy. Let's turn this on and make sure all of this is still working, right? You don't have any gaps or spaces or anything strange. And that was pretty easy to do, right? Very nice. Okay, so now let's create the brain. We're gonna need the brain inside of there. And how do we get that going? Now to insert the brain, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go to Insert, and let's just do a sphere. I think that's fine. And I'm gonna put it into position right in the middle, scale it down, and let's turn on our transparency so we can see. And this is gonna be our brain, right? So I think that's cool. And I'm gonna attempt to match somewhat what I'm seeing here, which is gonna be, I'm gonna grab my move. You know what? I'm gonna grab my move infinite brush, make it a little bit larger. I'm going to turn this into a Dynamesh, and I think let's do 256, should be big enough. The Dynamesh, control and drag to re-Dynamesh. I can even polish it, but what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to start sculpting this, or moving it around into this shape, right? I'm looking at this pink brain inside, and I think something like this is all I want. And I want it to be nice and blobby and wobbly, right? You don't want it to be perfect and clean, right? This is going to be our brain. You can make this smaller and just make even more waves and blobs and whatever, right? So you have something like this. I think that's cool. All right. Of course, it's not looking right from the side. So let me go ahead and turn the active symmetry on. And still using my infinite, move infinite, I'm just gonna kind of make sure that it looks okay from all the angles, including the top, the side, the bottom, right? All of this is great. And if I wanted to, I also need to push all of this in here, right? That's not really working. Make sure that you're not getting too close to the edges, right? And just kind of spin your model and make sure that it doesn't look like it's going through anywhere, right? To smooth this out, we can hold on the Shift key and just smooth this out. We still have our smooth groups on. I'm not sure we need that. Let's go ahead and change that. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to find my smooth brush, right? So let me press S and find smooth. Where's smooth? There it is. I'm just going to select that again, say OK. Hold on the Shift key and just clean this up and go around. If I wanted to see the brain a little better, of course I can go into a solo mode and just make sure that all of this, you know, looks good and makes sense, right? Let's do control and drag to re-Dynamesh, and now this is going to be essentially my base mesh for my brain, right? Okay, so how do we create the effect of the brain? It's kind of hard to see here, but we all know what the brain looks like. It's almost like a walnut, right? You want to create some lines inside here, even though it's an alien, right? We want to have that effect. So obviously we probably should use Damien Standard. Active symmetry is on, and essentially just start drawing. Let's do something like this, right? I'll set it to 40 in the sub mode, and I'm just going to start creating kind of a random nonsense for something that looks like maybe brain, right? And again, doesn't need to be perfect, but we do want that effect of something along these lines. To avoid the symmetry, I'm going to press X and just let me just turn that off, and just very quickly create a bunch of lines, right? So I don't know what your brain looks like, but this is mine, and I think it's perfectly fine. I'm going to do control and drag to re-Dynamesh this. I'm going to smooth this. And another thing that I could do just for fun, if we wanted to, we can polish it, right? Let's go to geometry. Let's do, let's see, clay polish. And let's just bump this up to like 50 by 57 and I'll put this on 50 and do a clay polish. And that's going to give us a really interesting effect. If that's a little bit too much, I don't know if you like this or not. It's up to you if you want to keep it super smooth like this, or maybe this is a little bit over the top. So maybe I'll do something like this. So it's a little more stylized, and you can see some really cool edges, but it's not so blobby and you know, and bubbly, right? I like this a little bit better. So to bring everything back, what I'm gonna do is, let's jump out of the solo mode and take a look. Let's jump out of the transparency mode and hold on the shift key, bring everything back. And now if I wanted to actually see the brain inside, right, I can of course actually turn on the transparency mode and see what that looks like, right? So now you can see we have the brain inside. Turn this off. We know that these pieces are now separate, right? That's going to be great. And we are good to go as far as the structure and the meshes go. The next logical step is going to be adding some paint, right? We're not going to be doing UVs. We're not doing topology. We have a really high-res model, and we are just going to poly paint it and render it. So that's all I'm going to do. So to get that started, let's think about how can we sample some of these colors to use as our base colors, right? So again, I'm going to save my tool and let's talk about painting. So I'm going to start from the brain. I don't see why not. Let me solo this for 1 second. And essentially I want this brain to be this kind of a pinkyish color that's going to be the same also color for, looks like maybe his tongue, maybe the inside of the mouth, right? It's up to you. So let's select the pink color that we want, and now we can manually attempt to select the color that we want that we're seeing here. But is there a way we can sample these colors, right? Right now I'm using Pure Ref, and this is obviously ZBrush. How can we sample our colors from Pure Ref? Well, we can't. But in our first video, if you remember, we did import our image in here as a texture, which means if we press Shift Z, we can bring it back. We can press Z again to get our UI here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on opacity and dial this all the way up. So I want it to be nice and bright at 100%. I'm going to scale this down. I don't really need it to be so large. I'm going to park it over here. And now what I can do, all right, obviously I don't need two of them, so let me minimize my Pure Ref. And now because this is inside ZBrush, I should be able to sample these colors. So kind of a cool little hack. So I'm going to hover over this color and press C, and that doesn't work. But if I press Z again and then hover over this, then it will work, right? Which is really interesting, but check this out. If I hover over here and press C, I can find the color that I like, right? I think something along these lines is good. And now to paint this color in, I am going to go to my standard brush, activate my RGB, turn off add and sub because I'm not modeling anymore. I just want to paint. So using my standard brush, I'm going to take my RGB, make sure intensity is at 100%, and I'm going to say fill object with this button right here. If I click on it, you can see on the right, this little thing shows up, and it's telling me that, hey, this mesh is now holding poly paint information. Now you are going to see some highlights if you're using the same material as me, right? And that's not going to be useful to us because we, we can't bring this to Blender, right? This material that I'm using right here is only in ZBrush. So I actually need to change my material. Let me change it to something more basic like skin shader. And now if I do fill object, you can see that that's going to look a little bit different. All right, so I think skin shade is going to be just a little bit better. Question, I'm going to press Z to get rid of this UI for a second. But what if I wanted to quickly also create some highlights for my brain? Could I use masking, right? Let's use masking to very quickly find kind of a peaks and valleys and automatically paint this in a much more interesting way than just a flat color, right? So to do that, what I'm going to do is go to, let's go to masking. What I could do is go to mask by cavity, And let me go ahead and turn this blur to 100% intensity, 100%. I'm just going to click mask by cavity. Okay, that's going to select all the inside part, which is great. Let's do Control and click to reverse this. Do Control and click to blur this. And now what I want to do is I want to paint the inside of this to be somewhat darker than this original color. So I'm going to take this and just drag it down, make it a little bit darker. And let's do another fill object. Do Control and drag and take a look. Now we have something along these lines where the inside here is a little bit darker, right? So that's pretty cool. Next, let's do peaks and valleys. So I'm going to go to that. I'm going to set mine to like 80. Coverage about 65, and do mask by peaks and valleys, and that's going to give me kind of a really interesting custom selection here. And I kind of like this for what I need to do. So let me let's do this. Let's take our original color, and you can hover over any color and press C if you want to sample it, and let's just make it maybe a little bit lighter, or maybe actually a little bit darker. Just do some other color and do a let's do Control and then let's do a fill object, right? And now you can see that that's going to give you kind of an interesting patchy effect with kind of a really interesting custom things that you wouldn't maybe normally paint, right? Let's say you like this, that's great. If you don't, another thing you can do is just select yet another color, something like this. Let's do RGB at like 10%. And let's just pump this color through the darks and the lights all at the same time, blending all of these together, right? So I'm going to start blending it by just clicking on this many times. And you can see how my brain is kind of blended together, right? And just these two colors kind of look a little more unified. Another thing we can do is maybe let's do a spray. And let's just change, maybe make it a little bit darker. And we can literally change the RGB intensity and just create, I'll do like 40, just create more noise on top, right? And you can see what it's doing. It's creating kind of a lighter and darker effects. And I think for like a cartoon brain, for poly paint, something like this should be perfect, because then once this hits Blender rendering, I think that's going to look really nice. So you have all these different effects and all these different options to paint. If you did all of this work and then you want to bring these dark pieces or areas back, remember we can still go to cavity and press that as we did before, right? Do Control and drag, blur this just like we did before, make this a little bit darker, fill object. And then of course if I wanted to, let's turn something on like toy plastic, right? You can see now it's kind of a wet brain. And that looks pretty cool, right? As far as what we need, I think this is pretty much perfect. So that's going to be pretty much it for my brain. I'm going to move on to the next thing. Let's keep going. Let's open this up and let's decide what's next. For the bottom piece here, I think it should just be kind of white, right? Let's just do kind of a white, and in Blender we'll just make it transparent. So I'm going to select this white and I'm going to go to 100% RGB, and I am going to fill object, right? Now you can see another paint appeared, and now we know both of these are done. Let's jump onto the solo mode so we can see. And of course we can't see our brain, right? I have to hide that to show you what the brain looks like because it's inside. But remember, this is going to be translucent, right? So we will see our brain in Blender. We're not going to see it here, okay? Very cool. How do we make these circles to be this nice red? I'm going to do Alt, select those, and now if I wanted this red color, remember we can press Z, hover over the red, and press C, right? And let's say I like this. I'm going to do, all right, so let's color these, make sure they're not masked, and now that looks really nice. And let's see, so now we can see that this is indeed holding poly paint as well at 100%, and it's going to be red color, right? Very cool. Next, let's talk about the actual skin. If I wanted to sample some of this green, again, I can do Z, hover over this green, press C to sample it. I'm not really sure if it's exactly getting what I want. I guess it's more like this maybe. Let me do Z to hide it. And I think it's close enough, so I'm going to go ahead and do fill object. And to get all of these black designs, obviously all you have to do is just take the standard brush, switch it to to dots, right? Grab the black color, and you literally just have to manually go through and paint this, right? There's no fast way to do this. You have to manually paint the actual skin, so you have to take the time and do that. Right now you can see mine is kind of blurry, right? What if I want it to be a little bit sharper? You can of course change the focal shift of your brush, or you can even change the alpha, right? If I choose the alpha to be like 14, that's going to be maybe a little bit closer to what I'm seeing there, right? So again, if I want it to be even sharper, I can change the focal shift. Let me just even do 0, and you can see how clear that is, right? So take the time and go through the model and do your patterns of whatever you like, or if you want to use the reference image. I'm not going to do that with the video. That's going to take way too long, but you get the idea. That's how you actually do it. So I'll do this on my own. I just want to kind of show you the basics of painting, and just so you know what you're doing, and you have poly paint throughout every single one of these pieces, right? Because when you export this out into Blender, you want to make sure that every piece is holding poly paint, obviously, right? In order for us to render this, right? So everything else is pretty much self-explanatory. It's the same process for all of these pieces. If you wanted to do the teeth, I can do Alt and select the teeth. And obviously, if I do solo, you can see right now this is part of the mesh. But remember, if we turn our polyframe on, we could do Control Shift and click, and I'll click it again to just reveal the teeth by itself, right? And that means if I wanted to color these, I can come here, press Z, hover over this nice yellowish color, and press C, and you can see, that's going to be something along these lines, I think, as far as the teeth go, right? And now I can do fill object. If I wanted to do the tips of these, same thing. You just take the standard brush, make this a little bit darker it looks like the top is a little bit darker, and you just go through and just add that dark color. But of course you want to change the alpha, right? And change your shift point back to normal. And now you can see how I'm doing that. I can even change my intensity of the color and just do something like this, where it's nice and gradual, right? To kind of match the reference. All right, and then to bring it back, I'm going to do Control Shift and click to bring this back. And let's say I want to color this now. So same thing, I'm going to press Z, hover over this color, press C. All right, and now I'm going to do Control Shift and click to hide my teeth and do a fill object, right? And if I wanted to, I can of course tweak this a little bit as well. And again, I can go through, do highlights, do all that painting stuff. I'm just showing you guys the process, right? So that's pretty much it. So go through and finish painting. And then once you finish painting, let's just, as a final step, add some fiber mesh to this, like these little hairs in the back. I'm gonna go ahead and skip to that next part. All right, so here I am an hour later. This took me about an hour to paint. So just using all the same techniques I was showing you guys, just adding some paint and sampling it right from the reference image, right? All right, if I wanted to do a quick BPR in here, I could do that. And this is what I'm seeing for the brain. Right now, this whole panel right here is just colored white. And of course, if I turn that off, you can see what the brain looks like. I just added a little bit highlights. I manually went over the edges of the parts that I could see and just literally just highlighted it using the lazy mouse. And I think it kind of gave me a little more control than using masking. So this is a combination of using masking and just hand painting it with lazy mouse, right? Just kind of highlighting the edges. So essentially, let me turn this back on. So this is what I got for fiber mesh. If you wanted to add fiber mesh, because I do see there's little hairs here, it's really, really easy in ZBrush. If you wanted to do that, let's do this. Let's hold on the Shift key and turn off all the paint. and I'll just make it white for a second. And if you wanted to add fiber mesh and you're not really sure how to do that, let me turn these off. So what you want to do is you want to select the body or the portion of the mesh that has fiber mesh. For me, it's just, you know, as we're seeing in the reference, it's just really the back. I don't really see it anywhere else. So just the back. So what I've done is, if you solo this, you could see I masked this part out. Okay. And then what I've done is I went to fiber mesh, and in here I used the Lightbox fibers. So if you click on that, I just used this semi-random one, fiber 62. If I double click on that and press comma on my keyboard, that will close my Lightbox. But you can see what it gave me. It gave me this really long hair, which you know, is not really useful. But now what you could do is you can go through the fiber mesh settings and kind of adjust these, right? So coming, let's do it from the top bottom, right? So if you go to first one here is going to be length, right? Obviously this is way too long. Ours are super short. So for length, you can just dial that down, you know, as much as you want. Right now they're kind of, you could see they're kind of falling over, and that's because the gravity is turned on. So one of the things I could do is just adjust the gravity and maybe just kind of position them, you know, you can control the gravity and kind of angle them the way you like it. Maybe, you know, just decide if that's long enough or not. You can make them a little bit longer. Pretty easy, right? For coverage, if you use coverage, that's going to give you the control over the thickness of these, right? So, you know, you can decide if you're building something, if that's what you like. Maybe it's a good idea to make them just a little bit thicker so they're easier to see. And then you do have colors, right? So right now the base color is kind of black, and if you go to tip, it's set to gray. But ironically, you can't really see it well because this is activated, which is the texture, right? So if I turn the texture off, you can see now a little bit better of how the fibers look. And now if I go back to let's go back to the coverage and adjust these, right? You can see how you can actually control the thickness of these, which is really cool. Now there's also something called segments, and that's going to be, if you press Control and hover over this, this defines the number of segments along each fiber, how many segments it has inside each fiber. So if you want to bend some of these, right? If you have long hair, obviously you want more segments. For me, for us, most of these are not really bent that much, so something like that is fine. So that's pretty much it. And once you are happy with it, you can just say, you can also control the scale of the root, which is going to be, make it a little bit thicker on the bottom, if that's something you want to do. You can also, of course, play with these other ones. But anyway, so if you say accept, that's going to create a new layer, right? And this is what it looks like. And if I wanted to jump out of the solo mode, this is the new one, right? Obviously, they right now look super generic and kind of default and ugly, right? You can go to brushes and choose something like, let's just choose this Groom Brush 01, turn our active symmetry on, and we can just bend these, make our brush kind of large. And, you know, we can bend these a little bit and create something a little more unique, right? So you could do that. It's up to you. And of course, there's many different grooming brushes you can play with. And then if you render even this right here, you should see something along these lines, right? Anyway, so if you play with the settings, you can control again the length, the thickness, all of that. Also keep in mind, you can just literally grab the move brush and move them that way as well. So a lot of control here. You can literally just sculpt them and clump them and move them around just using the basic move brush. You can even make the brush smaller and get rid of some of the pieces if you want it to be, you know, a little less dense. You can also hold down the Shift key and just literally smooth these out, and you can see how they're just kind of melting in. So a lot of control. Fiber mesh is a lot of fun to play with. And now I have something like this. Let me hold on the Shift key, turn all my paint back on, and now if I render this, you should see that, you know, I have something like this. Obviously, because I'm showing it to you guys, I made it super thick, but this doesn't make any sense. So my other ones, let me delete this one. I don't even like this one. But this other one that I made, I think is a little bit better, right? I just made them much thinner. That's the only difference. All right, so that is pretty much it for fiber mesh. So that's pretty easy. Now, the only other thing that I need to do, you know, now it's funny now, since I'm looking at this one more final time, I'm just realizing that all of this right here is actually yellow, not green. So that is a problem, and I need to touch that up. So let me do this. I'm going to press Alt, select the head. That's pretty good. And now I need to sample this color. So I'm going to hover over this and press C. And you can see I was able to sample that. I'm going to go to standard, and what I want to do is just have the RGB brush on with active symmetry turned on. That's great. And essentially this whole front part right here is kind of yellowish, right? So let's do this. I'm going to solo this, and what I want to do is I just literally just want to color this to match my reference. So all of this I kind of missed by accident, but that's okay. I'm going to leave that here so you guys can see my process. It's super basic, super simple. It's just essentially time consuming, and just you just have to make a lot of decision. If I wanted to make this a little bit darker, obviously I could just make this a little bit darker and come back here and just add, you know, I can even change the intensity and just maybe make this a little bit more darker, right? Another thing that's super useful that I was doing a lot is you can jump between the alphas, right? So if you want something more noisy, even this alpha 08, you can see you can create some noise by just adding, you know, something like this. So it's more patchy versus just smooth, right? Which works well actually with this character because of the way Adam used the paint. This does look somewhat patchy and textury, so it's very, it kind of works well, right? I think that's good. Let's jump out of the solo mode and take a look. And even right here, I think is already much closer to what I am seeing in the reference. Let me just press C one more time. Maybe just color this here too. Turn off my lazy mouse, and let me just add that here. Okay. I'm liking this. Now, what would be the next step? So the next step is obviously take this and bring it into Blender, right? Now, I am at 4.5 million points, and as I say a lot in my videos, I don't actually have a fast computer. I'm using an iMac, and my iMac is not even M1. It's an older iMac. So I can't do 4.5 million as is going into Blender. I do need to decimate it or optimize this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this. I like all of this, it's great. Now, what I'm going to need to do is very quickly go through each piece and just decimate it and make sure that I can reduce it down to maybe even below 2 million would be better, right? And I can fast forward to this part, but I'll show you a couple pieces just so you're aware of what the process is. And the only other thing I do want to mention that's really important, if you want to export fiber mesh into another application for rendering, you do want to select it. You want to select that layer that was created, and you do need to go to geometry, and in here you must press something called convert BPR to geo. So I've already done that, but that's something you want to do. So this fiber mesh will be converted to mesh or geometry, and then you will be able to export that out, right? So that's important. My fiber mesh is only 23,000, so I'm not even going to decimate that. It's low enough. But let's just go through these real quick, right? So I'll just go from the bottom, and let's just see. So this guy right here is 159,000 points. If I solo that, you can see that I'm talking about this guy here. And I don't need it to be that large. I think that's a little bit too excessive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Z plugins, go to Decimation Master, and again, before you do this, it's super important. Just make sure you save your work. And you can, if you do decide to decimate this, you can even save as and just do _ decimation, just so you have another version, right? So you don't mess up your original high res or high poly version, right? So I'm going to say pre-process current, and that's going to do that. And now I'm going to leave it at 20% and just say decimate. And as you do that, just always make sure you watch your geometry, and make sure it doesn't lose quality, right? So I do want to say use and keep poly paint, right? Obviously this is painted. So I'm not really sure, actually I forgot to press that. Let me do this one more time, pre-process. And now I'm just gonna say decimate. So I'm gonna go from 159,000 to, it's gonna jump down to 31,000. And visually nothing has changed, but the number of active points has changed. So that's great, right? So now I just have to do the same exact thing for all the other elements. Just literally just do pre-process and then do decimate. And that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that to all of these pieces, and fast forward, and then let's pick up from there. All right, excellent. So that didn't take very long at all, and now you can see I went from 4.5 million to 930,000 points. All the poly paint looks exactly the same. The quality of the character looks exactly the same. So that was really easy to do, and I think that was useful, right? All right, so once that finishes, the next thing we want to do is we need to merge all of this together, right? So we can export it out and have an easier time in Blender to kind of activate the poly paint. We don't need all of these pieces to be separate, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hide the panel, and that is going to reveal the brain, because the only item that I need to be separate from everything else is the back panel, right? And I'm calling it a back panel, but you know what I mean, it's the back of the head. And the reason I'm doing that once again is because I want to apply a different material in Blender to make it transparent or see-through, right? All this other stuff could be all together, right? So what I'm gonna do is let's just do we could do merge down, or say merge visible, right? I don't really mind merging down, so let me just merge it down. I'm gonna say skip for now. Let me just go through these really quick and literally just merge them all into one layer, right? And now we have 2 layers, so that's going to be all of that and just the panel, right? Now let me turn this back on, and the next step is obviously exporting this out. So you can export this out as FBX or OBJ. Both formats will keep the poly paint, so it doesn't really matter. All right, so let's do export, and let's go ahead and jump into Blender. Here I'm in Blender, I'm using 4.2. It doesn't really matter what version you're using. All of this should be the same. Let's delete the default cube, go to File, Import, and let's just bring both of our objects into our scene. All right, so this is what it looks like. By default, he looks, I think, pretty incredible, honestly. I love how, I love this display that Blender does if you turn on the cavity, right? And you, if you are not seeing this, it's a really cool effect that you can only achieve in the solid mode, right? If I switch to any other modes, you lose this cavity. But if you want to turn this effect on, and you can see all the beautiful detail, right? You can go to this little shading drop down right here, and right there's something called cavity. If I turn that off, this is what it looks like. If I turn it back on, you can see my type is set to both, and I don't think I messed with any of this, but it has this really awesome preview that I love, right? Really cool. All right, how do we activate our poly paint so we can see it in Blender, right? So to do this, obviously we need to jump into a different mode. Let's go into the material preview mode. So I'm going to activate that. I'm going to select my monster, and let's go jump into data. And for anyone who's super new, if you open up color attributes, you can see the name of your poly paint right here. So by default, ZBrush called it color, right? So that means to turn this on, all we need to do is just go to our shading and click on the monster. You can see I don't have any materials in here coming from ZBrush, so I'm going to say new, and now I have these nodes right here, right? Holding down the shift and middle mouse button, I can move these around. Using the scroller I can scroll this, zoom in and out, right? But essentially I need a base color for this guy, and I need to create a new node. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift A, go to search, and just type in the word attribute. Okay, once you do, you should see this panel appear. So I'm going to drop it right in there, and I'm going to take my color and connect it to the base color, right? You can see that Blender doesn't know the name of the poly paint, so we have to tell it, right? So we're going to say color, and boom, automatically all of the poly paint kicks in. Let's do the same thing with our panel right here. Let's give it a its own material. Do Shift A, search, attribute, connect our color, give it a name. And now we can, of course, apply the glass material as we wish. The other thing that you could do if you wanted to play around with any of the colors, you can do, let's do Shift A again. And in here, keep in mind, you have all of these awesome nodes to play with. So you can plug in brightness, contrast, hue, all of this incredible fun options, right? So for example, I don't know, for whatever reason, let's say I want to pump up the saturation for this monster. Well, I can drop this in, put it right here, and then let's go ahead and take this and plug it into, this is going to go into a color, right? So we want to maintain that. But now we have this saturation dial, and if I start moving this around, you can see that I can go to black and white, or I can give it a lot more saturation, and that is super cool. I can also change the hue if I wanted to. Maybe I want to have a few different monsters running around. So all of these options are really fun. I just wanted to show you that. Let me undo that. I don't really need it. I just wanted to show you that fun node, that's an option for anyone who is maybe new to Blender. And let's go ahead and go to layout mode. And here we are, right? All right, and now at this point, it's just about dialing the materials, adding lights, and doing all the basic lighting stuff, right? So if you select your mesh, you can go to material, you can turn on subsurface. So one of the things I could do is maybe I want to change the roughness to make them a little more shiny, right? You could do that. That's beautiful. And let's select this guy right here, do the same thing. I'm going to change now if I change the alpha on this bottom one, right, you can see that now you can see the brain through, just like we had in the reference. And if you wanted to see how to set up lights and how to actually render, I do have many different videos on this. If you wanted to see a step-by-step process of lighting the character and setting up lights step-by-step, I do have a few other tutorials that you could follow, and let me show you what they are. So we did take the witch to be exactly the same way. We just used the poly paint and then step-by-step rendered it in Blender. You can check that out. I also have a 10-minute tutorial called Render ZBrush with Blender, and this is Slimer from Ghostbusters. So in 10 minutes, I show you step-by-step how to set up all the lights. So if you're interested, check out this video as well. So I hope you had a lot of fun creating Adam's character, and thank you so much for joining me. I will see you guys in our next video.